Most people follow the same financial advice. Go to school, get a good job, work hard. But what if that advice is the reason so many people never get ahead? You earn more. You try to be responsible. And still, it feels like you're just keeping up. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you were taught a way of thinking about money that doesn't actually build freedom. This is the idea behind Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's not about getting rich fast. It's about understanding why some people stay stuck, even with higher income, while others quietly build wealth over time. Kiyosaki learned this from two father figures. One followed the traditional path, the other questioned it. Both worked hard, but only one became financially free. In this video, we'll go through all 15 key lessons from the book, and more importantly, how these ideas show up in real life so you can start making better financial decisions with more clarity and confidence. Lesson 1. Stop working only for money. When Robert was young, he asked his rich dad a simple question. How do I get rich? Instead of giving advice, Rich Dad gave him a job. Low pay, long hours. After a while, Robert got frustrated. He felt underpaid, unappreciated, and honestly, a little cheated. But that was the point, because that feeling is familiar. You work hard, expenses keep coming, and no matter how much you earn, it never quite feels like enough. Most people respond the same way. They try to earn more, work harder, push for a raise, look for the next opportunity, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Rich Dad saw the bigger issue. When your life depends on money coming in every month, money starts controlling your decisions. You don't choose what you want to do. You choose what you can't afford not to do. This lesson isn't about avoiding work. It's about understanding that if you only work for money, you stay dependent on it. Lesson 2. Financial literacy matters more than income. After that first lesson, Rich Dad shifts the focus. He explains something most people never think about. It's not how much you earn. It's what happens to your money after you earn it. Think about this. Have you ever gotten a raise and felt relieved? For a while, things feel easier. Then slowly, something changes. You upgrade your lifestyle, expenses increase, and before long, you're back to the same pressure, same stress, just at a higher income level. This is what traps a lot of people. Poor Dad believed education leads to security. Get good grades, get a good job. Rich Dad believed something different. If you don't understand how money flows, more income doesn't fix the problem. It just moves through your life faster. This isn't about working harder. It's about understanding where your money is going and why it never seems to stay. Lesson 3. Buy assets, not liabilities. This is one of the most important ideas in the book, and it sounds simple. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out. That's it. But in real life, this gets confusing fast, because most of the things people buy feel like progress. A bigger house, a newer car, an upgrade in lifestyle. It looks like you're moving forward. But here's the question Rich Dad keeps asking. Does this put money in your pocket or take money out every month? That one question changes everything, because a lot of things that look like assets are actually ongoing expenses. They require your paycheck to support them, which means instead of creating freedom, they increase dependence. This is where many people get stuck. They focus on what they can afford today, instead of asking what will make life easier or heavier next month. And over time, that difference adds up. Lesson 4. Build assets while you have a job. When you have a steady paycheck, it feels safe. Bills are covered, life is stable. But have you ever thought about how much that safety depends on one source? One paycheck, one employer. If that disappears, everything feels exposed. Most people don't think about this until something changes. A layoff, a health issue, a shift in the company, and suddenly, what felt secure starts to feel fragile. Poor Dad believed stability comes from loyalty. Work hard, stay committed, and you'll be taken care of. Rich Dad saw something different. A job pays your bills today, but assets protect you tomorrow. This isn't about quitting your job. It's about what you do alongside it. Because if all your income depends on one source, your future depends on it too. Lesson 5. Learn the rules before you pay taxes. Have you ever looked at your paycheck and wondered where it all went? You work hard, you get a raise, but your take-home barely changes. It's frustrating. And for many people, it feels like progress is slower than it should be. Rich Dad noticed something early. Two people can earn similar income, but keep very different amounts of it. The difference isn't effort, it's understanding how the system works. Employees earn, then pay taxes. Business owners often earn, spend, and then get taxed on what's left. That one difference changes everything. This lesson isn't about avoiding responsibility. It's about not playing a game you don't understand. Because if taxes are one of your biggest expenses, ignoring them doesn't make you responsible. It just means you don't see how the system is really working against you. Lesson 6. Create money instead of chasing it. Most people spend their time chasing money, working more hours, looking for higher pay, waiting for the next opportunity. But have you ever noticed how often opportunities show up and get ignored? Not because people don't see them, but because they hesitate. What if it doesn't work? What if I lose money? So they wait, and waiting feels safe. But over time, that hesitation becomes a habit. Rich Dad believed something different. Money isn't rare. Opportunities are everywhere. What's rare is the willingness to act on them. This doesn't mean taking reckless risks. It means being willing to try, learn, and adjust. Because money tends to follow people who take action, not people who wait for certainty. Lesson 7. Learn skills, not just a profession. You can be very good at your job, reliable, respected, well-paid, and still feel stuck. Why? Because your income depends on staying in one role, one company, one skill set. Poor Dad believed specialization leads to security. Become really good at one thing. Rich Dad saw the risk. The more narrow your role, the harder it is to move when things change. And things always change. That's why he emphasized learning broader skills: selling, communicating, negotiating. Not always comfortable, but powerful. Because these are the skills that give you options. And options create flexibility. Lesson 8. Don't let fear control your financial decisions. Let's be honest, money decisions are emotional. Fear of losing money, fear of making a mistake, fear of looking foolish. You might understand investing, but when it comes time to act, something holds you back. You imagine the worst-case scenario, and suddenly, doing nothing feels safer. But doing nothing has a cost too. It just doesn't show up right away. Rich Dad didn't say fear goes away. He said successful people learn to act despite it. They feel the same uncertainty. They just don't let it decide for them. Because if fear controls your decisions, it quietly controls your future. Lesson 9. Cynicism sounds smart, but it keeps you stuck. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, that sounds risky? That probably won't work. I've seen people fail doing that. It sounds reasonable, even intelligent, but over time it creates a pattern. You analyze, you question, you wait, and eventually, you do nothing. Rich Dad noticed this often. Cynicism protects you from being wrong, but it also prevents you from moving forward. Meanwhile, imperfect people take imperfect action and learn faster. This lesson isn't about ignoring risk. It's about recognizing when caution becomes an excuse. Because staying on the sidelines feels safe, but it keeps you in the same place. Lesson 10. Laziness often hides behind being busy. Most people don't think of themselves as lazy. They're busy, working, managing responsibilities, handling daily life. But have you ever said, I don't have time to think about money right now? It sounds reasonable, but it repeats. Not now, later, and later never comes. Poor Dad believed staying busy meant being productive. Rich Dad saw something different. If you're always busy, you never step back to ask if what you're doing is actually working. And without that pause, nothing changes. You just move faster in the same direction. Lesson 11. Bad habits shape financial outcomes. Most people think big financial decisions matter most. Buying a house, changing jobs, making an investment. But have you noticed how quickly money disappears after you get paid? A few small purchases, a few quick decisions, and suddenly there's not much left. That's what Rich Dad focused on, not the big moments, the small repeated habits. What do you do first when money comes in? Do you save first or spend first? Do you invest or wait until there's something left? Because over time, those small decisions repeat, and they quietly shape your financial life, not in a dramatic way, but in a consistent direction. Lesson 12. Arrogance blocks learning. Let's be honest, no one likes to feel like they don't know something, especially when it comes to money. So what do people do? They avoid it, or they say, "I already understand that." But here's the problem. The moment you stop learning, you stop improving. Rich Dad noticed something subtle. The words you use shape how you think. "I can't afford it." That statement shuts everything down. There's no next step. Now compare that to, "How can I afford it?" That question forces your mind to look for options, new ideas, new approaches. This lesson isn't about knowing everything. It's about staying open enough to keep learning. Because the moment you think you already know, you stop growing. Lesson 13. Choose what you feed your mind. Think about what you hear most often about money. It's risky. It's hard. Most people fail. If that's all you hear, what happens? You become cautious. You hesitate. And over time, your thinking gets smaller. Rich Dad believed most people are influenced more than they realize. By news, by conversations, by repeated opinions. This doesn't mean ignore reality. It means pay attention to what you're feeding your mind every day, because your thinking is shaped by what you hear most often, and that thinking shapes your decisions. Lesson 14. Take action before you feel ready. Have you ever waited until you felt ready to start something? A new skill, an investment, a change? At first it sounds responsible, but what usually happens? You wait, you think, you prepare, and still, you don't start. Because readiness doesn't come first. Action does. Rich Dad believed confidence is built through experience, not before it. You take a step, you learn, you adjust, and slowly you become more confident. If you wait until you feel ready, you may never begin. Lesson 15. Take responsibility for your financial life. This is the hardest lesson in the book, because it removes every excuse. It's easy to point to external factors, the economy, your job, your background. And those things matter, but they don't fully decide what happens next. At some point, something shifts. You realize that understanding money is your responsibility, not someone else's. That can feel uncomfortable, but it's also where things start to change. Because once you take ownership of your decisions, your habits, and your learning, you stop waiting, and you start moving forward. To recap, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is about how you think about money. If you rely only on income and increase your spending as you earn more, it becomes hard to move forward. But when you focus on building assets, controlling expenses, and making intentional decisions, your financial direction starts to change. It is not about working harder. It is about thinking differently and acting with purpose. So here is a simple question for you. What is one small change you can make today that moves you closer to financial freedom? Write it in the comments and make it real. If you enjoy this content, please like this video and consider subscribing to Aspire Reader. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.